Welcome to Can't Stop the Pop, the podcast where we, that's me, Craig,
and me, Matty,
do a deep dive on a song from the 90s or noughties.
So, Craig, I'm excited. What song are we doing this week?
We are doing Gina G, Ooh Ah, Just a Little Bit. So, what are your immediate thoughts?
Big statement time. One of the best introductions to a pop song ever. It's like a gay call to arms. That is like, it's like a comedy sketch of just people running to the dance floor. And I love it. I think there's so much to talk about with this song. And it is an absolute, it's both borderline novelty 90s song / incredible dance track of its era that still is a banger today.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. But before we get, I was ready for the episode to be done. Like I was like, you know what? Let's just done. But before we get into the song, Craig, tell us a little bit about Gina G, and why are we talking about Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit in particular?
Well, Gina G, or Gina Mary Gardiner, is an Australian singer. I say she is. I still class her as, but she was, because she hasn't really been active for a long, long time.
About 10 years, was really.
This was her debut single, and it was also the 1996 entry from the United Kingdom to the Eurovision Song Contest. And yeah, it's Eurovision month. We might need to edit that out if we don't get it done in time. But this song, whether we talk about Eurovision or not, sort of transcends the competition. So you could talk about this any time of the year and it would still be relevant. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah. I think that this is one of the few songs that really transcends Eurovision in terms of its era. I think you'd probably say the modern equivalents would be the two Loreen tracks. Hilarious. I listened to the Loreen album today, the new one. It's really good. But it's when you've got an artist and a song that can just go beyond the competition. And I think it shows in the international success it had, the chart success it has. And even though we're saying it transcends Eurovision, the effect that it had on the competition, which we will get to later, and I'm just going to tease that little one, but any Eurovision fans listening will know that it had a profound effect on what came later in the competition.
Yeah.
But I guess what I just love about the song is to pick up two things. First off, the production is so quintessentially 90s. It's like, I use it as a reference point all the time, but I use Kylie's Rhythm of Love album as that real. So, but it's true, that 1990 staple of, we're going to use it. This feels like it's a song that could have been from that post 80s, early 90s, but we're in 96. So we're the middle of the decade, things are changing, but it's still so steeped in that sort of style. But I also think the chorus is just so easily singable because it's like a pub chant. It's chant, chant, something else. Chant, chant, something else. That's quite literally how it's structured. And anytime you do a song like that, it just is an earworm for the decades. Like, I love it.
Yeah. You've captured what I thought. If I just think about the song, we're mid-90s. We're just on the cusp of the Spice Girls, but not quite there yet. This was released in March 1996. So for me, it is, you've got the Euro dance of the early 90s, but then it's siphoned down into a 3-minute pop song that could have been a bubblegum pop song 3 years later. It is totally. It is like you can almost hear the charts changing in this song, and I definitely associate it with that era. I think, I mean, I'm in terms of Eurovision, this is sort of what the BBC were trying to do. They were having a rethink about Eurovision. Stop me if this sounds familiar. And they were like, oh, it's not really connecting with the general public. So we're sending songs that are doing okay with the juries, but they're not commercial hits. So then they switched their tactic in the mid-90s, and they were like, let's look for songs that your average record, you know, you sort of your teen market, your early 20s market is going to buy. And this was the second endeavor. They had Love City Groove the previous year, which got to number 7, but this is probably the most quintessential example of that, I would say, until Scooch, when again I felt the BBC really went for a song that would cut through in a very different way, and not a way that many people appreciated, but they got it so right with this song. Well, the general public did, because they put it, they had a contest, they put it to a vote, it won by a landslide, and rightly so.
It's just one of those sort of timeless pop songs. Like, I really think it's up there as one of the sort of like defining bubblegum pop songs of the 90s. And I know some sort of music snobs might sort of like turn their nose up at that, but if you use the Spice Girls as a sort of middle turning point for that decade, which we do all the time, we've done it in multiple episodes, and you look at the post-80s influence of the first half and the Euro dance and sort of American dance. You look at people, you know, that were on the scene at the time, like we've interviewed like Ultranate, and people who had that sound that, even though it was European, it could still transfer internationally. And then once the Spice Girls hit, it was, everything was British, British, British. And that's the sound that you wanted to emulate. Obviously, by the end of the decade, we go to a different thing, and you've got the influence of Max Martin and things like that. But we're bang in the middle of a decade, bang at this turning point in which that, like, this was not only a huge commercial hit, but it was a hit with families, early 20s demographics. It had the pink pound, it had the gay card, and also it was a hit with kids. Like, he's going to hate me for referencing him again. Shout out to my brother, but who, by the way, when he hears this, he's constantly asking me now, like, when are you going to get me on your show? Like, as if he's this big music expert, which he is, and we will find the right episode. But with Gina G, who are just a little bit, he was in reception. So we're talking like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And most people, they had like a questionnaire, and it was like, what is your favorite place? What is your favorite song? And his favorite place was Tesco, and his favorite song was Gina G, who are just a little bit. And I just loved that, because other people were like Humpty Dumpty and sort of nursery rhymes. Whereas that just shows the scale that this song was on. And yes, the charts and the music industry was a lot smaller and a lot more narrow in that what was seen and heard through radio and television. But this song was inescapable. There is a statistic that I believe is true. I'll say later when we talk about the live performances of it, which is just almost astounding. Like, I love it.
I mean, I was 10. So I was 10 when this came out, and I remember I had no awareness of what Eurovision was, but I just remember hearing this, and I'd never heard anything like it before. The intro, the synths, just incredible. The layering, and then it's just euphoria. It's relentless. Listening back to lyrically, let me just talk about some of the lyrics, because you said it's bordering on novelty, and it sort of is and it isn't. But so some of it's quite, I'm like, okay, she really went there with things like, 'cause I feel so alive, I feel your love inside. I'm like, okay, I was 10 years old singing that. whatever. And but
But that was so the era. Like, this was an era in which that, like, come on. In the 90s, there was, like, the thong song and I Want to Have Sex on the Beach were, like, major hits that kids would sing in the playground. And it's like, can you imagine if a song at that level had those sort of lyrics today? And if they do, people just absolutely turn a blind eye. And they go, oh, they're not for kids. So this was for kids.
And there's one lyric in particular that I just, it's in the second chorus, like a child, but it's born out of phase. Could act the angel, but it wouldn't be true. And I'm like, what the hell is she talking about? What does that even mean?
She should speak to Alison Goldfrapp. She's talking about about poets.
Yeah, but then it doesn't make sense if you read it on that level, but then you listen to it and the way it's performed and the way it's delivered and the whole production, and it makes so much sense. And I think we will talk about Eurovision, but you've already touched on it. I think in terms of the Eurovision formula, this is something that it always puzzles me that the UK just doesn't really get. And that's, you don't need to fully comprehend the language to understand what the song is about or to enjoy the song. And yes, some of the lyrics are weird, but it doesn't matter whether you understand them or not. I certainly didn't as a kid. And it always feels like when we try and do up-tempo songs, we often overcomplicate it. And I talked about Scooch. There is so many double entendres in there. Who's going to get that when you hear it once on the night? And this just, you don't need, you can hear it once and the appeal is just apparent. And I just think, how did we get that formula so right and then consistently get it so wrong for so many years afterwards?
Yeah, I just love it. Like, I love it so much. I heard it, I think it was last year or the year before. There's a night in Manchester that I love to go to. I'll shout out to it, called Hellbent. And it's a bit of like a combination of like, it's a little bit of a naughtier, kinky night, but it plays pop music. And it's the only night that does that. And it is so popular because this song came on, and I swear it was like a switch turned on in everyone. And I was like suddenly like 12 years old again. And everyone was like, just a little bit. Like, and I was like, this is mental. This song is genuinely like so old now. We're 30 years old now. 30 years old.
30 years old.
30,
yeah.
But the only thing more I wanted to say about the song is, and this is a very silly reference, but if anyone has seen this clip, please comment or link it to us or something. It's so funny. But if you've ever seen those clips of where people find people with funny names and they attach them to a song lyric, there is a woman somewhere out there in the world called Elizabeth Moore, and they basically attached her to this song, and they were like, ooh, just a little bit, ooh, Elizabeth Moore. And I can't unhear it. So Elizabeth Moore, if you're out there, you've given me so much joy. So much joy. Congrats.
Chances are there's more than one Elizabeth Moore, so let's find as many as we can.
Are you called Elizabeth Moore? All right, Craig, let's talk about the video. Let's talk about the music video. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, what can you do with a corridor, some lights, and some backing dancers? Not very much.
Not very much.
I mean, the video, look, Eurovision videos don't, certainly from the United Kingdom, don't tend to be overly complex because that's not the thing that's getting played all the time. It's the performances and the Eurovision performances. So it is what it is. It's very simple. It's Gina G and backing dancers and a random man in a corridor with lights overhead.
Two men.
And that's it. What I will say in terms of its broader appeal is I think it's very sensible not to lean into the Eurovision angle and make it a bit kitsch and a bit camp, and to just play it fairly straight.
Yeah.
Because I think that probably then helped the video. You could play the video in America, and we will talk about America, and it doesn't matter whether you know Eurovision or not. So in that sense, the video is functional, but that is about the only thing I can say about it.
The video is functional. That is a bit. We've got to put that on TikTok. So I think that for a song that is so camp and so Eurovision, it's a bold thing for it to attempt to be so sexy. I find the green filter really bizarre. That it's the sheens where everyone looks a little bit gaunt. Yes. And it's clearly filmed some of it at double speed and then slowed down to slow-mo. So a lot of her movements are quite sort of like sultry. My favorite thing, also it's slightly framed like it's a behind the scenes shoot. So we're seeing like the sort of like the clipper and or whatever, clacker for the director. And it's like the two guys are the directors. That's what I got from it. But it's still quite a loose concept. For me, what's weird is the very, very intentional lack of choreo. So these three girls who are three girls in this, there's two girls in the performance. Three if you include the backing singer. But in the video, there's three girls, all with their sort of, they look like a budget version of the Saturdays in like different individual coloured outfits. But they don't have choreo. They just sort of like vibe along with Gina. And then in the chorus, the choreo is pose, 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 another pose, 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 walk around and walk around. Like that's literally all it is. Whereas if we skip forward, when we do talk about Eurovision, we talk about performance. The choreo.
Oh, there is like, choreo.
It's like a workout video. I'm like, where's Natalie Cassidy? Where's Jerry Halliwell? Like, give me a fitness DVD. But yeah, it's that weird. I wrote that it has a weird middle ground between being a catwalk and just like a shipping container hallway that they've just found and they filmed in. And sometimes there's lights, sometimes there's not. Other than that, there really isn't anything to say about the video of note. It's pretty functional. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. But there is a lot to say about Eurovision.
Here we go.
Okay. Okay, so firstly, let's talk about the performance. Some context. I'm not a massive Eurovision fan, but
I'm bigger than you are. But yes,
you are. But at the time, there were two rules that I think affected negatively this song on stage. The first was that you could have a backing track, but there still had to be a live instrument on stage. But if you listen to Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit, the live instrument is a computer. So you have these two guys on stage.
Live. Yeah.
So you've got these two guys playing next to these 90s box monitors. And I just think that limits the staging somewhat. And the other is around the voting itself. But I do think that the having to have those computers on stage limits what they could do with the staging. And vocally, like, it is a singing contest. Vocally, it's a little bit wobbly at the start, I think. But also, I'm like, Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit is not really a singer's song. So it doesn't really fit, in some respects, a singing contest. So she does okay, but it doesn't. The performance is, as you'd expect, a little bit. It's a little bit shaky at the start.
I think that she sounds good at the start. There's the odd moment in which that she's a bit sharp, but that is a raw, unfiltered very little reverb vocal, and that is difficult to do. And she's doing a high energy dance track in a performance that is very limited in what it can do, because, as you say, we were at the tail end of Eurovision, coming out of everything has to be live on stage, or it has to have a live instrument element. We cut to now, you don't have to have live instruments on stage. In fact, there's barely ever a live instrument on stage because of the speed at which it has to change. Having been to Eurovision and watched it when it was in my home city a few years ago, it was fascinating to see the actual speed at which they move between the contestants. The only thing live on stage is that vocal. And even then, there's still usually a heavy amount of backing vocals or track also underneath, because that's just how a lot of pop music is produced these days. This is raw, unfiltered. She is exposed. She's got one backing vocalist, and then the two guys are also doing the ooh ah, like just that. And it's very exposing. For me, what's funny, and we can insert a sound effect that has not been in the show for quite some time, but it really is such an unnecessary dance. Maybe not a dance break, but just a dance that these two girls, I was like, oh my God, because in the video it's so simple and it's so pose, and it's quite sexy. This is like, come on girls, let's go, we're going to burn that fat, come on. And they're like, they're going for it, like for their lives. And the computers on stage as well. Apparently it's 2 MacBooks back in the day, those big old monitors. Something I did read about Eurovision performance, which I don't know if it's true, and I don't know if this is one of those Eurovision urban myths, but apparently the dress that she wore, Gina G's dress, was a Paco Rabanne dress that was left over from Cher.
Oh, I think I have heard this. Yeah. I've heard about this. Yeah.
Apparently she customized it, made it shorter, but it was from his collection and apparently was given to Cher, but she hadn't worn it in a long time or something like that. It's so of its time, the performance, and it's just a shame because I honestly think if it had come out 4 or 5 years later, towards the turn of the millennium, then the production quality and what they would have been able to do with it would have been much bigger, and they'd have been less constrained about having to be live instruments and making it a small thing. Like, it could have been bigger, looking back.
Yeah. Did you know who one of the backing dancers is?
No.
Did you not know this? So one of them is Miranda Cooper from Xenomania.
From Xenomania?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
she can't speak French, but she likes the funky music we were talking. Wow.
So inspired greatness. Yeah, it is. I love Gina's "Hey girls," bit of personality on show, Gina. But
hey girls.
I just think the song, you're right. The song to me sounds a tiny little bit tinny. It just doesn't have the full oomph of the studio track, which I don't think is the same now of the way songs are produced. But so the song is already a hit in the UK, goes into Eurovision. I think it was expected to do well. It did well, but it didn't win. It didn't even come close, actually. It came 8th. And I think most people, if you tell them this song came 8th, would go, what? Like, what?
I had that conversation today.
Yeah?
I say, I literally was talking about this song. I was doing research, and my husband said to me, "Did this win?" And I went, "No," and we're going to talk about that. Because the fact that it did not very well had a profound effect on the contest going forward, didn't it?
Yeah. So this was the last year that it was jury's Odie. So, and I can see why. So in some respects, it's a bit weird that the BBC are already pivoting and going, well, we want to send songs that the public would buy when the public can't vote. So, and I can see why this song would not appeal as much to juries based on where the Eurovision Song Contest was at the time. So yes, it came 8th, and then the following year there were 2 rule changes. And I'm sure that this wasn't just in response to Gina G, but I think these are 2 things that did negatively impact UR just a little bit. So the first was that they started televoting. Not every country could do it. I think there was only 5 countries, including the United Kingdom, who trialed it. But obviously, televoting then became much more commonplace until they had to reintroduce the juries because it swung too far the other way. And the other was, like I said, they got rid of this rule that you had to have the live instruments on stage, in which case Gina G could have just come out and done a full pelt dance routine and a big show relative to what Eurovision was at the time.
Big group dancers, like you could have had a costume reveal. Like, if this had been produced by someone now, if this had been like at peak X Factor level, like let's talk about those X Factor performances. Like, this would have been insane. You imagine? But it is quite. It's a bit sad that I think its actual live legacy on Eurovision is a little bit tainted, because the success of it is just absolutely just monumental, really.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Eurovision?
No, I've said it all.
We said it all, in the words of Take That. So let's talk about what happened when this was released.
Okay, so this was released in March after it won the Great British Song Contest. So in the UK, it was released in March, and it entered British the chart number 6. Yeah,
sorry,
I was trying to think of a cake-related pun, but I can't. So enters the chart at number 6, and it eventually peaked at number 1 the day after the contest. But it was in the top 5 from March until May. So it really was, going into the contest, a huge hit. And I'm sure someone will correct us, but I don't think there's been another song since that we've sent that was already a very established hit in the UK before entering Eurovision.
I think the only sort of thing that's come close in the last few years was Sam Ryder, but it wasn't really a hit before the show. There's been moderate hits that we've thought that I think have done decently on the chart. Like the Ollie Alexander song did all right. Even like Mae Muller had quite a lot of like radio play before it, but just don't connect with the Eurovision public. And that's a whole different debate these days. Like, Eurovision is such a poison chalice, hence why I want to remember the good old days.
Yes. So,
but yeah, it was number 1 hit.
Regardless of what happened on the night, this is a hit. It's a huge hit. And it was actually the 8th biggest selling single of 1996 in the UK. So, just easily one of the biggest Eurovision songs, certainly of the ones we've sent, of
absolutely
recent times. And then it was a hit in Europe, as you'd probably expect. But then something really weird happens. And sometimes I still think, did this actually happen?
I couldn't believe it was released when I was reading about it. Like, I was
this song was released in America, and it ended up peaking at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it was nominated for a Grammy for Best Dance Recording.
Like, I was reading this going, no. Like, I need to know the source. And I spoke to people, I was like, was this actually nominated for a Grammy? I was like, yeah. Like, Best Dance Recording at the Grammy Awards for a UK Eurovision entry with an Australian singer, international hit. And that is why we had a preface of this episode that this song is so much bigger than Eurovision. It's so quintessential of the 90s. Like,
Yeah.
It's an international mega hit of
Yeah.
that era. And I do think it's up there with some of, the sort of quintessential songs of that decade.
Yeah. It is. It's so. I mean, like I say, I didn't know Eurovision at the time. I definitely started to become more aware of it after this song, probably because of this song. But there will be a whole swathe of people who know this song just as a hit that came out of
Yeah.
the UK with no link to Eurovision whatsoever. But it is just a really good song. I still am a little bit baffled that it was so successful in America, because I don't see how this sound fits in America, but it worked. Something did. I
Came
can't
before the
explain
Spice
it.
Girls. Maybe Gina G should be cited as the turn of British pop music and not the Spice Girls. Lies, that's not true, but don't cancel me for that. But yeah, massive in the States, and I'm pretty sure that some of my American friends would know it. In fact, I might even test my friend out next time I see him. My little weird fact that I found out about on its release, is, do you know how many times Gina G performed this song on Top of the Pops?
I don't, but it must have been. It was already a hit, and it was leading up to Eurovision, and the BBC were pushing it. It must have been performed 4 times at least.
8 times. There are
Oh.
8. So, correct me if I'm wrong. According to Google, it is over 7 within the year, and then another performance after that. I have looked on YouTube, and there's someone that's catalogued "You Are Just a Little Bit," Gina G, 3rd performance, 4th performance, and they are. Everyone is on there, and this is another. It's just like when we did the Jerry Halliwell episode about It's Raining Men, and we talked about like the sort of recycling of the same performance. It's pretty similar every single time. And I'm just like, get it, girl. Like, you get that exposure. Yeah, 8 times, mental. If I'm wrong, then come for me. But I'm like pretty
No,
certain it's a staggering amount of times.
it wouldn't surprise me, because it was its 8th week in the chart that it went to number 1. So it was, I think it was in the top 5, and the BBC were going to be pushing it because of Eurovision. So, wow, that's crazy.
We haven't mentioned it actually. But like, do you have it to hand? But like, did she have a hand in writing it? Who wrote the song?
Oh, wow. Now, I was going to talk a little bit about that, because it is related to the song, but it's also related to what happened next. So she isn't credited as writing the song, though I'm pretty sure I've read interviews where she said she did have a hand in it. So it was produced by Steve Rodway, or Motivate, so very much again of that era. Again, linking to the Spice Girls, he remixed Wannabe, which we've talked about on another episode. So they tell different stories. He says, "Oh, well, I was given this half-finished track, and I was asked to finish it off." And she says, "Well, no, it was done, and it just needed mixing." But either way, she signed a record deal with Steve Rodway, and she didn't read the fine print. And this is all documented. She's talked about extensively. And it essentially prohibited her from working with anyone else unless Steve Rodway agreed. And it also meant that all the royalties from the song went to him or his production company. So she did release an album, Fresh, and he carried on working with her, though she worked with some other people. But she and the other person who wrote the track, Steve Tolber, didn't see any royalties at all from the song. It all went into FX Music. And then they sued Steve Rodway and said, "Where's the money?" And he was like, "It's gone. It's the money's not there anymore." and no one knows what happened to the money. He says that the money was just, they pumped it into the album campaign. And there is a part of me that's like, that Fresh album campaign, they had billboards, they had Dave LaChapelle shoot the album cover. I can well imagine that the money this made was easily blown on that marketing budget. But ultimately, she ended up stuck in a deal. She didn't want to work with him. He'd taken her money. He didn't want her to work with anyone else. And that is why after the first album, she just didn't do anything else, because she was stuck in this horrible deal.
It's such a shame. It's such a shame because as a song, even if the album hadn't done as well, and we can talk about the album and stuff, but like this level of song and success is the sort of level that people dream of in that era. Like Grammy nominated, international mega hit, UK #1, did well on Eurovision. Like, it's the sort of song in which that even if she had a problem with the record label, you'd have hoped that she'd have bounced back from it and she'd managed to salvage a career and come back with something else. But she really, really didn't. Like, what happened when the album came out?
Well, so she had 2 other top 10 singles, and released the album. I think the album was moderately successful, but the issue was always that she had this one album and they just carried on releasing singles from it, because I think she probably already knew at that point she wasn't going to release another album, certainly while she was stuck in this deal. So there is a part in this, she followed it up with 2 top 10 singles, and can I just say, Fresh, the song, is a bop. I love it.
Fresh is a bop. I was listening to it before.
I genuinely think she probably could have. She certainly could have, I think, released a second album fairly shortly afterwards and enjoyed a decent level of success. Because, like you say, Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit is the sort of song you can dine on out forever. You can dine out forever on it. So I think she probably could have turned that into a decent second album. Would she have ever had a long-term career? I don't know. But she certainly wasn't a one-hit wonder. And when you've got a song as big as this as your debut, and you can still have more top 10 singles, I think there was potential. And can I just say, she had another hit in America as well.
Did she?
Yeah. Gimme Some Love was the second single in America. I think it went top 50 in America. So she had a really solid foundation beyond this song.
Yeah, but it's such a shame. Like, and I think she's done the odd performance over the years, but I don't think she's as big a staple on the Eurovision circuit as other people. It's not like she's coming out every single year at the festivals like people like Scooch or Nikki French or Katrina and the Waves. Like, Gina, reach out. What are you doing? We'd love to interview you. Let's do an episode on Fresh.
Please. I mean, I agree. I remember she made a comeback with Tonight's the Night in 2006. Well, by that point, that's not the point to relaunch your career anyway, when sales are in the toilet. But, and I remember I was working in a club at the time. She did a PA, and everyone just went crazy for Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit. No one was really bothered about the new song. And she independently released a second album. But I think by that point, it was like 11 years later. It's just the momentum was gone. And I do think now, perhaps because of Eurovision has produced so many more big hits. You talk about your Loreens, but there are so many other big hits. I'm not sure how much of a prominent song this is now in Eurovision terms. I can't remember the last time the contest itself referenced this song.
Yeah, agreed.
And, my God, the Eurovision Song Contest loves referencing its own stuff. But I can't remember the last time this was referenced.
Whereas I think within the UK, which is kind of the main point to sort of wrap it up on, in that it may be attached to Eurovision, but this song is so much more just about being a massive UK number one and a sort of a real like high point of that era. I loved it. Absolutely love it. I still love it today. Any final thought? What's your final thought, Craig?
Is the intro the best 20 seconds of pop music of all time? I think it might be.
The only other intro that comes to mind that gives me the same, like, get me to the dance floor, very different song, is Cheryl Call My Name, that Calvin Harris intro. Do you know, you know what I mean? Da, 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 da. It's when you've got a rhythmical synth that comes in before a beat. And it's a really specific thing to say, but when it's synth, rhythmical, and is instant earworm, you know exactly what that is before the beat hits. I feel like that's a really special moment. So of this era, it's up there with your Baby One More Times. It's up there with your Man I Feel Like a Woman's. Like, genuinely, like, it starts and you're like, here we go.
It is. Yeah. Well, Get Me to the Dance Floor. It hits my Gina G spot. Perfect.
That was a team name in one of our Can't Stop the Pop quizzes, wasn't it? If you want to listen to the song, you can find it on streaming. And Craig, where can they find us?
So Can't Stop the Pop has a website where there are over 500 reviews, including this song and all the legal drama, which you can find at can'tstopthepop.com.
We are also on social media. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and even Facebook. Just search for Can't Stop the Pop.
We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/Can't Stop the Pop for bonus content and exclusive episodes. If you are already a subscriber, you are on a journey with us as we rewatch Miami 7. If you have not joined yet, we're only about halfway through, so there's plenty of time for you to get on board with that trip.
Get on board for that trip to Miami with us, because it is quite something and it's very entertaining. Do subscribe to our channels. Do subscribe to the Patreon. Get in touch. Let us know what you think of the song, what you think of the show, what you think of Gina G. And please leave us a review, but only a good one, wherever you get your podcast from.
Hey girls, thank you for listening, and join us next time for more
Can't Stop the Pop.